Hi, and welcome to the Diablo podcast, your home for Diablo diehards, tryhards, casual, and hardcore alike. I am your host, Santh. I'm joined today by three people to help dig through a massive 2-hour campfire chat that we all got to witness and behold, in the hopes that we can break it down and discuss it. And we will discuss a lot of things. So, rounding out the crew, starting with my normal co-hosts, we got Nineball.
Oh, hi.
We got Nerdwords.
Hello.
And all the way from the UK and Windows Central, we've got Jen.
Hello.
Yay, Jen!
Hello.
Hey guys, we've got a lot to talk about, so let's break out how we're gonna do this. I figured the easiest thing to talk about first was the things that everybody was gonna agree was awesome, and we wouldn't have as much to talk. So we'll start with quality of life. Then we're gonna go in. We'll talk about the new skills and all the new happenings with our respective classes. Then let's talk about torment, something we haven't had to talk about in a while. Torment. Then we'll go into Paragon, and I think ending on Runewords is a nice place for us to end, just like the campfire did. Completely out of left field, we got Runewords. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on that, guys. But before we do that, I'm just curious. You sat down for 2+ hours with a campfire chat. This is a challenge. We didn't pre-show this. What's a quick one-sentence reaction you can give to what you were able to take in during that campfire chat?
They actually have created a aspect for Sever that does damage, and it isn't reliant upon other skills. It's actually just a straight buff aspect for Sever. Finally, thank you. Okay.
Nightmare dungeons might finally be dead.
Yeah, I'm never going to Gaia again. No, we've got a way to set our town portal. Was my takeaway.
That sounds fair. I guess for myself, I'll just say rest in peace, sacred items. No one will miss you, but it's good that you get this eulogy right here, right now, because never have to think about those again. Those aren't coming back.
I have to go back to like World Tier 3 and get one just to have a sacred item, for like the legacy item in the stash.
Yeah, I guess.
Farm it now while you can.
I'd be curious how many people are going to have sacred items in their stash in general. It's like, I just have one or two off chance.
I actually have quite a few for leveling multiple others. Well, yeah, because for leveling other sorcerers. Because respecking in this game is cancer, so just I could level a sort in the time it would take to respec my fucking Paragon board, so I just do that. And I use sacred items to juice them on the way up.
It's fair.
That's good planning. That's good planning.
All right, let's run through the quality of life real quick. So Jen, you already alluded to it. We're going to be able to set our preferred town portal location.
Hooray! So nice.
Thank you.
So nice.
I'm going to go through this and we'll round of applause, right? Separate dungeon key inventory tab. Monster crowd control is going to be reworked. Monsters will now die instantly and no longer have long death animations.
Can we still... pause. That's great. I'm so excited about that. Can we just still remove like half of the on-death explosions in the game, though? Like, there's still like 15. Can we just get it to like 7? Because there's still like a lot of on-death explosions, but, whatever.
Yep.
At least it'll happen instantly now, so I can just die right away instead of 5 seconds later when I try to grab the loot.
What city are you going to set as your home? Now, obviously, the new city could be really cool, but if you have to choose of the current ones, where are you going to go?
Zarbinzet. My favorite city has always been Zarbinzet.
Oh, interesting. Karagar's my favorite.
Yeah, I think Karagar is definitely the most efficient of all of the towns, but Kiyovushad has pretty awesome music, so
it does.
Yeah,
true.
Interesting. I guess I don't have a horse in the race. I'd probably go Karagar just because it gets easy and it's right there. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
however,
Diablo is going to be a ghost town, I'll tell you now.
Yes,
That
as
run
it
down
should
the
be.
stairs when you're doing
Yep.
Duriel runs kills me every time, and now I don't have to do it again. I'm so happy. If
Well,
that was the one update we were getting, I'd be
right. That's
jubilant.
it. The whole expansion is just
Yeah.
just that.
Screw the expansion.
Yeah, hopefully whenever what happens in Vessel happens, they just destroy G Cole, just gets wiped off the planet. Like that would be amazing. The sad part for me is that like I actually like Kyrgyzstan was like the place I was most excited to explore in the expansion, and had the worst major city by far.
It was one of the cities that I've wanted to actually like see in the game because it's one of the most important ones from the novels that's never been featured in a video game, and then it was the worst city.
Yep, that's how I felt about it too.
it's okay. It'll be okay.
We'll
Will
make
it?
it.
Anything else from the quality of life that we need to celebrate?
I mean, I just want to double down on the crowd control changes, that instead of they're removing like hard crowd control with more soft crowd control, so you still have control of your character, which is, just huge. Ever since season 2 and losing metamorphosis like 100% of the time has been every time I get crowd controlled by something, it makes me sad and angry at the same time.
It's fair. It's fair. Okay. It's hard to really converse around things that we're all generally in agreement on. We got to witness what the future holds for all the classes that we've already been playing. Now, there is a bunch of data mining that is out. I'll fully recognize that. With the PTR coming out right now, there's a bunch of data mining about Spiritborn stuff. From what we've seen, and Adam Fletcher has already posted on Twitter, like, whatever you're seeing about Spiritborn's already out of date. Don't jump to too many conclusions. So we're not even good. We don't even need to talk about that. Well, let's talk about the classes that we do know and what they have presented. So every class is getting a new skill, and we know we're going to get more skill points. We know we're going to be able to bump things up a little bit more. We'll talk about some of that down the road. But first thing, ultimate skills are going to get ranks, right? Every class is getting ultimate skills that have ranks, so you can bump them up. And maybe they have a little bit more validity. As we've already seen when we saw the Spiritborn was released, ultimates are a major part of theirs. Whereas in a lot of builds for a lot of classes, you just don't use them. Or you maybe put a point in, but you're not really thinking about it. Does that excite you? Does having your ultimates be able to be pointed into shake it up enough that you're just like, yes, I can finally use... I don't even know what a Necromancer ultimate would be. Army of the Dead more efficiently?
I mean, it's funny because like Necromancer, almost every single Necromancer build uses an ultimate skill, not for the skill itself, but the buff that it provides you. You use Army of the Dead because it's 100% damage bonus. You use Bone Storm because it's 20% damage reduction and 15% crit rate. Like you literally, and it gives every enemy that it hits gives you 6% barrier. Like the skill ranks doesn't matter. So I'd almost say for Necromancer, there is like a Shadow Surfer Bloodwave build that like turns it into a darkness skill that has like some fun, interesting things that go on with it, which I'm sure that one will probably see some buffs to it. I would almost say literally do not care, except that darkness is actually getting its own ultimate instead of having to cannibalize from the other archetypes for the Necromancer with the Soul Drift, and it's just like a pure like DPS skill, going through. It gives you barrier, which is what you're taking Bone Storm for the majority of the time anyways. It refunds a whole bunch of essence, it hands out vulnerability, and it gives a damage bonus, and it's just like, yeah, that's actually really cool. It hits all the niches that darkness wants to do, and so I'm looking forward to trying it out.
Yeah, coming from a sorcerer, I've used an ultimate every single season forever and will always forever. That's why we set cooldown on everything. Like we have to have that ultimate, and less so now I would say, but still, like everyone's using unstable currents. It just depends on which build you're using. Even if you're running fire, you're running unstable currents because it's just the best. There's niche cases for the other ones as well too. I don't think the multiple skill ranks really changes anything with it. And it also depends upon the amount of skill points that we're going to get to compensate. Like, does that mean that I'm going to be able to like stack it up 5 times, like, and still get all the skills that I want from the new bits of the tree, or am I going to be sacrificing something to be able to do that? Then I don't know. I would imagine that we'll just take it to unlock the power and then use it, and that's it. But I'm not sure.
It is interesting that it is, taking 40% of the new skill points that we're getting for those extra ranks. They're giving us 10, and 4 are just going to go into the ultimate if it's something
assuming,
that we use.
Right, assuming we do that. So I wasn't super excited about it.
When I've actually played a bit of the Spiritborn. One of my concerns with it was that it was just so visually impressive compared to the other classes that it's going to stand out dramatically. And I think a lot of that is because each build we were shown was very much built around an ultimate. And I'm not used to seeing that when I'm playing the game because a lot of people just don't use them for the other classes.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully this will counteract that somewhat. We'll see how they actually look in game. I mean, for Rogue, we've got the Dance of Knives. Is it? We've got that new skill as well. If you can imbue them, that'll look really cool. But yeah, it might just be because against the backdrop of the jungle as well, it was quite dark as it looked, and it's not what I'm used to seeing in the game. It looked really bright and amazing to watch, and it will look the same to other players. Yeah, so it could be that as well. Once I've got more used to it, and it's not the newest thing. But if we have got other classes also all using ultimates and like pairing them up, it might balance it out a bit.
I think we have a good segue, but we're going to come back and we'll dig into every skill. But Jen, you got hands-on at Gamescom, so I feel like you should tell us about that because I think all of us are a little jealous. I think you also walked away, if I recall, with your little Wolfisto.
Super jealous.
Oh my god!
So
he's gorgeous, isn't he?
Audio listeners, this is the
Super
plush Wolfisto that you actually cannot get in America. It does not ship until October.
Really?
Mm-hmm. When I saw you post it, I was like,
than I thought.
that's pretty awesome. And then it says does not ship until October, which is a bummer. But okay, plush stuffed animals aside, Gamescom, what was the experience? And then how was the Spiritborn?
So first of all, the booth. You could tell they spent a hell of a lot of money on the booth. It was all done up like Nahandu. Leaves, trees everywhere. They even had a giant soul stone glowing in the middle of it, and all the booths all surrounding it with the PCs set up. They were giving you a coin as well for every build you tried. So if you tried the eagle build, you got a little coin with the eagle symbol on, blah, blah, blah. So I managed to get all of them, but I didn't play all the builds. I cheated. I got someone to walk me through a couple of times just to get these coins. But the 2 builds that I tried were the eagle and the centipede. So on paper, I thought eagle would be my guy because I really like movement speed and whipping across the map. And it's got this skill where you literally just it's like you teleport into the air and onto the other side of the battlefield. It's brilliant. But I found the centipede a lot more fun. Where you're poisoning the enemy. Yeah, I didn't expect that at all. You can't deny that just looks the coolest of all of them, and just so much more threatening the way it just out of the ground. It just takes everybody out. Fantastic. It is depending on what build you play. It's really fast, but I think all of them seem really really quick. I saw some people playing gorilla, which is more about being sturdy. And you can mix and match abilities. But I didn't really get a chance to do that. We only had 20 minutes with it. In which time I was also trying to spy on what was around the map and try and go to lots of different waypoints. And also we'd seen the rumours before about the level cap changing and what people had seen in the build. So I was checking the build to see if I could find the same clues. So I wasted a lot of time just being nosy rather than actually playing with the Spiritborn.
Doing the Lord's work, Jen. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Just trying to confirm things, yeah. But but yeah, I'm really excited to play it fully and do my own build with it and actually mix and match the skills from the different creatures, like, and just see if it isn't a case of you have to like pair everything all into one spirit. So maybe I can do centipede and use that eagle skill that flies me around. We'll see.
Nice. Well, I'm super jealous.
Yeah.
I mean, it. I think I said this during the Spiritborn reveal, but October's not that far away, but it
Month.
feels like it is. Oh yeah, Leviathan for you it's September 1st. But it feels so far away. Like too far. Like how can I be getting closer to it and it feel like it's further away? I don't get it. I don't get it. Um Last question before we go back, and I think it's a good segue question. So you predominantly play rogue, if I'm correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was the Spiritborn experience enjoyable enough that you would leave your rogue aside and main it instead?
It was enjoyable because it was new and different at the time. It's really hard to say that I would definitely leave my main class. And I've expressed this when I've been writing. I'm worried that the Spiritborn is trying to be a jack of all trades. And I don't know if it's really going to appeal to people that really, really identify with a singular class.
Mm.
I don't know that yet. I don't know if it will be a case of you'll play it because it's new when the expansion comes out and then go straight back to what you were playing before. I don't know how many like people will main Spiritborn because it's got so many skills and so many ways that you can build it. So my answer is I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, that's fair. You know, let's start with Druid and let me explain why I might be maining a Spiritborn. Um, so Druid, we get a few new things. First, we get a skill, Stone Burst. We weren't the first ones. Druid was not the first ones doing this. And it has nothing to do. First Diablo team, you guys are crushing it. I just don't want another stone skill. I don't. As a druid, I've got a boulder, I've got petrify, I've got, the storm slide. I've got all that. Another, and that's a channeled skill. It just this to me missed. It just did not seem like a skill that I was enticed by, that I would think I would use. None of you guys main a druid. I know you guys have played. Am I wrong on that?
I have just
Okay.
played a druid for the first time, and it's my least favourite of the classes I've played.
I'm
I'm
not.
sorry.
You're not hurting my feelings. It's okay. Um, I just wasn't. and Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe there's some fun interactions, but it just wasn't what I was expecting. The channeling, it kind of goes back to like Lightning Storm being channeled too. It it just doesn't feel good. So now a channeled Earth skill. I was hoping for something with pets, especially since they've been saying like, hey,
Mm.
pets are along the way. Give me a pet skill that's not on the wheel, like that's somewhere else on the tree, because then it starts to feel like it's a real thing. That being said, and we did get the addition of new passives. So we do get a passive finally at the bottom of the tree where we can get an additional companion and some additional damage. That has me more excited of like, hey, now at least as I'm making choices when I get to the end, my companions can kind of come together. Um, there's some legendary nodes, so on and so forth. None of that answered, though, my biggest issue. I've played a companion druid this year or this season. It just feels off. Um, it doesn't like it doesn't target well, and as a result, just feels like half a necro. I know necro has its own minion issues, but there's nothing to push the minions to do much. So I was a little disappointed by that. I am still looking forward to playing it. I'm not going to disregard it, but to me, the druid section was kind of a big miss. I was hoping, give me a bear pet somewhere. Why not have a bear pet?
Yeah.
There's a quest in Skosglen where you go and like, oh, there's a bear that's dead. That was one of my friends. It was my bear pet. Uh, that druid got a bear pet. I want a bear pet. I want a bear pet, guys. That's it. It's real simple.
You feel like the Spiritborn addresses a lot of the reasons you love the druid class, though. Do you like it because of the whole nature magic and?
No, for me, it's always been like I really like the shifting between a wolf and
Yeah.
bear, and then having like nature magic. I think for me, the problem with druid is that that's all too connected. I think I talked about it on the last podcast. I'm a werewolf. I should do werewolf stuff. Or I believe I said werewolf shit. Cursing. Sorry,
Werewolves
guys.
do werewolf shit. I
Yeah.
like that.
And then, bears do bear stuff. That's fine. It's just they're all so connected right now that it just doesn't feel like there's a clear identity in one way or the other. Whereas when I'm looking at the Spiritborn, yeah, like okay, you gorilla, centipede, whatever it is, and you can mix and match, but then you're still rooted in a particular element or idea. That's appealing. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see what all comes of it. But for Druid, my take is I think it's moving in a good direction. I think they can recognize companions need something, but I think it's still going to need a few more shakes. Like it still needs something else to really make it work. Well, maybe the other classes are doing better. I will state the Rogue one looked really cool. I really liked that one. Like that looked
It does. It
awesome.
does.
Um, let's talk Sorcerer. Nerdwords, what can you tell me about the Sorcerer? How cool is it going to be to have more conjurations?
So I got a reject ability from Diablo 3 that no one in Diablo 3 even wanted. I waited a whole expansion to get a fucking familiar. Yeah, I'm not impressed. I don't know. I mean, look, maybe it plays way different. Maybe it's way more awesome. Underwhelmed is an understatement. Disappointed is like, yeah, that's about where I'm at right now. 10% increased damage to the damage type it does. I'm trying to imagine like if I'm running some sort of multi-element build, but that's not really been the way that the sorcerer has gone pretty much at all, right? I mean, you have multiple elements you're throwing, but usually it's focused on one, right? Like right now, like it's lightning spear. You do a lot of other elements, but lightning is what's your damage, So it's like, I don't know. Yeah, it just felt really underwhelming to me. It's basically a skill you're going to cast, and it's going to just do its own thing. I prefer skill shots, like things that I can actually aim and like have control over. It's why I like the rework to Frozen Orb as much as I did. Not because I'm a big Frozen Orb Andy, but because it felt like I had control over my damage and control over what I was doing. And look, I could be jumping to judgment, right? That's kind of what this is we're judging what we saw. I'll play it, I'll see how it goes, but my initial reaction was, really? That's what we get? That's my take.
I think the other big part of this is, there's a whole new class that's being presented. So the one thing that the class that you've been playing for a while gets is disappointing. It feels like a bigger letdown. Well, it's like you quickly forget, like, oh, but I already like the thing I have.
Yeah, I
it
love
just
my class. I'm still
wasn't
gonna play it.
it just wasn't raised
Well,
to
but
a
like, okay, but
significant
Diablo
level.
3, I got Black Hole. That was an amazing ability with like really cool implications to what you can do gameplay wise, right? I waited an expansion to get a familiar that I'm going to cast and is going to run around the screen doing shit. Like very little. I just smack a button and then it goes and does its thing. There's like very little thought process or brain power put into it at all for me. And again, I could be wrong. Maybe it ends up being like the most badass build and like super powerful, and I'm completely stupid, and I probably am, and that's fine. I'm still going to play the shit out of it, but I was not super excited when I saw it. I literally went, what? But yeah.
And romancers?
Reaping Lotus Aspect Sever no longer returns and instead splits into three specters that expand out and back from its apex. Sever deals up to 120% of normal damage.
That sounds pretty awesome.
So, Sever finally has an aspect. Finally, because there are two other aspects. One of them turns it into a cooldown teleport. So not if you're actually using Sever as a skill, you can't use that one. And the other one was it has a % chance drop to drop a blight. And then the blight does increase damage. So it's like I'm not playing Sever, I'm playing blight, with that one. So it's nice to finally have an aspect targeted for Sever, my favorite build. And then the other changes that we're going through are getting Soul Rift. Looks interesting. It's a damage ultimate, which we'll see how much like the plus skill ranks and stuff like that can really affect. If it's going to be a legitimate DPS source. The fact that it gives you barrier means that like you can kind of drop Shielding Storm potentially, because the barrier generation is going to be a lot less than what Shielding Storm was, but maybe it's enough to give you that one free aspect. You don't really have essence issues, so the other side of it of regaining essence doesn't really matter. The one thing that I really am disappointed with the skill is that it applies vulnerability, which is something that like Darkness already kind of has covered because of like corpse tendrils and resetting your cooldowns and stuff like that. So I don't know. It doesn't seem like one of the ones that, to me, particularly it being like a Darkness skill, that having that vulnerability proc adds too much to it. But hey, we'll see how it goes through and plays out. The new key passive, again, this is something. Sever finally has a key passive that's worth taking, because Shadow Blight is absolutely garbage for the build, and so this one's just, hey, 15% damage for Sever. Thumbs up. I like it. I'll be interested in seeing how like the curse skills dealing damage works with like the aspect that you just always have a curse. Like, does it just turn it into a damage over time? I'm looking forward to that one on the PTR. The legendary node for the Paragon board, is just damage bonus to curse enemies, which is also, again, a kind of a buff to Sever, because since we're only going to be able to take 5, which is what I had asked for a limited amount of skill trees on the last podcast, or Paragon boards, and so I got what I wanted, so I'm happy in that. But it also, like, going through and doing it, like the Darkness board for Necromancers, Wither, is about damage over time, which Sever isn't. So like Sever didn't really have a board that had a legendary node that did anything for it. And hey, this one, just increase damage against things that are cursed. Cool. It'll apply to Sever. Great. The other little passives are whatever. And yeah. I have to say, as someone that my favorite build is Sever, if you haven't figured that one out yet, I'm eating well on some of these updates, so I am definitely looking forward to it on the Necro and continuing to play my favorite build until the expansion.
Must be nice. No, it's good. It is good to see that. Obviously, you've been talking about it for a while. And to have a little bit more optimism for where you're going in the expansion. And on the PTR, which starts in just a couple days, which is absolutely crazy. Jen, you want to run us through the Rogue?
Sure. I mean, the new norm school they're getting, it's really cool. It looks great. I like bow and arrow skills. That's why I play the rogue. So I haven't eaten it up with as much enthusiasm as some of you guys on your class. But also I'm not going to jump straight into rogue at launch anyway. So at launch a vessel, so it's not too bad. I don't know. I wanted them to mix more, like it's probably controversial for people that play rogue and are really obsessed with it from Diablo 2, but I wanted them to incorporate more demon hunter type skills to the rogue. So the demon hunter had minions, but although maybe they don't want to have too many builds, too many classes with minions in the game. stuff like that. So the knives is just like it's not that new. It's not that new for me. So I'm not like really excited about it at all, as you can tell.
It's so interesting because, like I had mentioned before, that was the one skill out of all of them that I was like, oh yeah, I like that. I was like,
It looks cool. I
yeah.
just for me, I won't use it.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm on the outside, right? On the outside looking in, like, oh yeah, I would maybe try a rogue when I get the opportunity because I play so much, right? I'm definitely going to make multiple characters. It's probably all going to be druids and spiritborn, but who knows? If I made time, I would definitely go into a rogue. I think that would be my next one. And then there's the barbarian. I don't care.
I don't need anything
weapon
else.
slots. Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah. Oh man,
I mean,
barbarian.
Double throw is really fun in Diablo 2. Mighty throw looks pretty badass. Like, I think that this was my favorite reveal of all the skills for all the classes. I thought it was the coolest one. It was also kind of like a man. I wish that had been in the game to begin with, but I think it's awesome. I think the Barb was awesome. In fact, I'm probably more inspired to I'm still gonna go Sorc right off the bat, and then Spiritborn because new class, and then I'll probably play Barb after that. But I hopefully it works. Hopefully, like a throw Barb is a thing because that would be cool.
Let's just make them better. Come on, they should have gotten
I
no.
think the only thing that I didn't
skills.
like about it was that it was like a cooldown, and it's not like you can like spam.
I hate cooldowns in general. I don't think they should be in Diablo, period, but that's a whole different conversation for a different game and a different day. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I wish it wasn't a cooldown, but it's 12 seconds with, a really nice rolled Shaco and a bunch of gear, right? You could probably get it down to 3-4 seconds, maybe even less. Yeah. And then, okay, cool, is there a way to reduce it by doing certain attacks and things? So now can you just spam it, coming from someone who played Meteor Sorc 2 seasons ago, and that thing had a 12-second cooldown and was eventually nothing. I'm sure it's possible. But it looks cool. I think thematically it's cool. And like in other games and in like D&D, I think throw barbs are one of my favorite things that exist. So a throw barb in Diablo being, a thing is pretty cool.
Is there not a Crusader that do hammer throwing in Diablo 3?
Yes, that was more magical hammers. This is more like actual hammers, I think.
Yeah.
But yes, yeah, and then paladins in Diablo 2 as well.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they think this will shut people up asking for paladin. It won't. It won't.
It will
so this
not.
is it for all the paladin Andies out there. Just go play a mighty throw barb, and that'll get you guys in.
Yeah. And shut up. Yeah.
It will not. Okay. Well, we got through some of the skills. Every class has got something, and we need to get hands on. I think everybody needs to get hands on.
Yeah.
And then opinions might change. So we will see. We got some difficulty changes. Some big changes. This is wild. We're going to get 4 leveling tiers. We have normal, hard, expert, and penitent, right?
Penitent.
Penitent.
You threw an extra T in there. It's all good. No, I'm just messing with you, Xanth. It was just messing with you.
Now I've got like word aphasia and I can't say it. Thanks. Appreciate that. There's the joke. I'm not going to say it again anyway, because then we also have format. Format 1, format 2, format 3, format 4. So what?
This is supposed to be less confusing too, by the way. This is gonna normalize it, make it make more sense.
Somehow.
That's
yeah. This was one of the ones that I wasn't really a big fan of. Making 2 leveling modes, normal and hard mode, I think is like all that it needs to be. Going through and then having like 4 leveling modes in order to go and engage through is just like too much, because there's always it's gonna be one of those ones. The speedrunners, theory crafters are gonna go through and say that the experience bonus and the mob HP levels at this particular level is the most efficient to level up, and that's why we're all still playing hard and skipping the other difficulties, or expert or something along the lines. Then that's just the way that it will be. I would be fine of replacing World Tier 3, World Tier 4, and going into that like tournament difficulty system. But I feel as if this is one of those ones that they could probably change in the next expansion after this, that they'll just drop it down to normal and hard, because we don't need 4 leveling difficulties that will only take up a very small amount of time, in our overall progression through the seasons in the game.
That's what I thought. I thought that if people spend enough time in each difficulty and it's a progress system, then it will work. But if it ends up like where we had, so in Diablo 3 we had, what was it, 16 torment difficulties, and you literally you go from hard, you get your set, you end up in torment 6, you jump straight to 10 for some of the challenges, and then you're up to 16. Nobody plays in the difficulties in between, so they're pointless. I don't want this to end up like that. Again, we'll see it in practice if it's a significant enough jump in between each step for you to need to spend time in that particular torment difficulty. But like you said, the streamers will be like, no, just jump straight to this one, it'll be more efficient. And we'll ignore them.
Well, and I think that this isn't a change for us. Yeah. Like, I think that's the bottom line. I don't know what I don't know what the issue they're trying to address with this change is, but it's not an issue that I've encountered or that it sounds like we've encountered at all. This is probably something more geared towards casual players or people that are playing a little less often, that are having trouble struggling through some of these difficulties. So if it helps them, great, and it probably will not affect us at all, because we'll just pick a difficulty that's the most efficient and just do it, right? So I don't think it's a negative by any means, but it just it just feels like an odd and out of the blue kind of change that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. What they've done within the difficulty levels makes sense to me. So to a casual, the pit level 100 isn't the same as a nightmare dungeon level 100, and they're trying to make that the same across the board, so it's easier to understand. Yeah, and like that Colin did a really good diagram of like how much time you spend in each difficulty and what you're doing when you're in game, and I thought that makes sense, because like even on the bosses, so the ladder bosses, now we've got temporary and master working in the game, they're stupidly easy until you get to the tormented versions. But how long does it take you to get to the tormented versions? So now we'll have like a different difficulty of each of those bosses in each of these torments, which makes more sense, rather than going from ridiculously easy to ridiculously hard for the casual person coming into the game.
Yeah. And that is like my problem is with the normal hard expert and penitent.
Yeah.
Like I'm fine with the torment 1, 2, 3, and 4. Like going through and having like staggered progression, so that way you can kind of like tailor your own difficulty with how, like, what type of challenge that you want to go through, or continue to increase your rewards as you go up. Like that itself is fine, because especially with hell tides and things like that, even with the 3 profane mine cages are just nothing, there's no difficulty, you're just walking through collecting loot. But if there's something that will make it increase the challenge for a little bit longer, not that I expect Torment 4 to always be challenging, that eventually you're going to get geared up, masterworked up, everything is perfect, and you'll just fly through everything else. But yeah, definitely having that kind of progression system for the in-game stuff tied to those difficulties, I think, I agree with you, Jen, that is better for the majority of the population playing.
But I will say too, I just want to throw this out there before we move on. I do find it funny that the whole because what is it? You unlock Penitent when you hit level 50. Right, so you have to play normal, what was it, normal, hard, expert? Is that the 3? Yeah. Normal, hard, and expert, yeah. And then you hit Penitent. Once you hit 50, you can then switch to Penitent, okay? And then, once you hit 60, you unlock the Pit, and then you complete a Pit tier 20, which then allows you to unlock Torment 1. And it's just like, and this is less confusing. Like
Yeah.
it's just what I just okay, cool. I mean, sure. It just feels weird. Also, the doing a tier 20 of the pit to unlock a torment level like we did in Diablo 3 for 10 years is also another thing. So
the pit, it really is greater rifts.
yep,
Yeah.
straight up.
They just really want us to use the pit. They've bought these infernal hordes in. No one's using the pit anymore, and they're like,
Yep.
"No, you will use the pit.
Yep.
We're going to make you use the pit."
I like the pit more than Nightmare Dungeons at least, so I'll take it for sure.
We all live in the pit.
Yep.
So slated next is to go into Paragon, but I think that there's a nice connection with what you guys have just brought up, which is the pit, Nightmare Dungeons, and glyphs, right? There's a massive change happening to all three of those things.
Mhm.
Let's talk the pit. There's a logical reason we're going to go do it, and it's to level our gems up in Diablo 3.
Yep. We're having to go through and blast as high of a pit level so that way we can level up our legendary gems. I used to get the 3 tries, bonus one, a bonus if you live.
Yep.
And bonus if there's more than the 20 pit tier differences, as opposed to paying gold to empower it. An empowered pit, power pits.
Hey, that's next patch. That's season 7.
Yeah.
Season 7. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things like I'm not opposed. Nightmare Dungeons were basically a one and done content at this point. You get your glyphs up to 21. And then you had no reason to ever go back. Now, it's like, I guess it's like with the glyphs, changing up to be able to max rank 100, but now instead of using the experience, it's literally just you get if you play Diablo 3, it's just three chances to roll an extra level on it. It makes it so that way you're going to spend more time in it, but then like if you were talking about like Nightmare Dungeons, that's makes it sound bad, but at least in the pit, we're getting like the masterworking materials and all other types of stuff. So there's multiple reasons that you'd want to be in the pit anyways. So moving it and kind of combining those systems, it better for my time, more or less,
What I missed was, so what will be reason for going in Nightmare Dungeons now?
We don't know.
We don't. Is there?
No. So they did say what they are shifting is Nightmare Dungeons will essentially be a place to farm crafting materials. So they're taking what is in the pit. I know.
What?
Oh.
Okay.
What?
But it's not just a loot explosion at the end like the pit has. Essentially, everything you're killing in a Nightmare Dungeon will have a chance to drop, Obdicite, Nethar, whatever it might be. So now when you're doing a full clear of a Nightmare Dungeon, you're gaining those materials. So it gives them a purpose to exist. Like you're going to go get your materials there.
Why would I do that and not an Infernal Horde, though?
See,
is my question.
There's the
I want to know what the difference in drop rates are.
Right. Oh, if given the choice, I think everybody's going to choose an Infernal Horde because it's centralized.
Over a Nightmare Dungeon?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right now, I actually choose between the pit and Infernal Horde. Sometimes I get tired of doing Infernal Horde and running the pits faster. Like, faster from, like, a completion standpoint, not from, like, the amount that you get standpoint, obviously. But doing, like, a 5-minute pit's great. But, yeah, I'll never go to Nightmare Dungeons ever again then, hopefully, would be the objective. Ever. Again. Ever.
Yeah.
I need to come up with a purpose for them that's significantly different to what everything else offers.
Yeah.
Even if the drop rate is slightly higher in there for masterworking, I'd rather not. They're just not fun.
Yeah.
No, and they're a good idea. I take them back to the drawing board. Why is it that every dungeon cycles through the same 5 or 6 bosses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make them unique, make you want to go there. And I think with time, that'll happen. But Jen, I think you're absolutely right. Infernal Hordes, you would go there. whatever the new mechanic is for season 6, you would go there. You probably aren't going to backtrack to a nightmare dungeon. However, like in other words you were saying before, you're still juggling between and hordes. You're even when the rewards aren't as great, you're still finding yourself going back to the pit. They mentioned time and time again that they use the pit as a barometer for how classes are doing. So it makes sense they need to incentivize it as much as they can to keep that going, because that's what that's the canary in the coal mine. That's when they find out that Nine Ball's Sever build is not quite up to snuff, and that's why he's getting those buffs.
If they just remove the shit affixes from Nightmare Dungeons, then they're just like the pit. So like I don't understand. Like it's like we've literally walked back everything about Diablo 4 that made Diablo 4 completely unique from Diablo 3. But this one thing is the hill that they're going to die on forever, and that's their Nightmare Dungeons. And they're great dungeons, great tile sets. I don't get it.
I mean, it's like it's one of those ones. Like there obviously there is an avenue in order to make Nightmare Dungeons with the affix system unique and interesting, and it's literally just it's mapping.
Yeah,
is really what it is having more control over the affixes that you're adding and being able to do like ludicrous things to stacking various buffs and debuffs, onto a Nightmare Dungeon key, and then subsequently getting huge rewards for being able to complete it. That there's another game that does it, Path of Exile mapping, not the same but similar in kind of theme of the things that you could do, and that's an avenue that could be taken. But as it is right now, they're not really all that fun or engaging.
Yeah.
And the sooner that you're done with them, the better.
Yep. For sure.
Yeah. And I think you're spot on, Nine Ball. I had hoped that Nightmare Dungeons would be closer to maps in Path of Exile, where you have like a ranking of them. You're wanting to move outward to get to the highest level because that's where great loot is. There's different bosses at the end, different bosses with different loot. Not so much, but however, as we're talking about bosses with different loot, they're reorganizing all of the loot tables. So you no longer have to farm the same boss trying to get 3 or 4 different items. That's kind of nice. Quality of life, really. That's a quality of life thing. But we didn't touch on it. And it was off the top of my head. Any other exciting things about this pit?
Love
it.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I must have missed the thing about the masterwork materials being put into Nightmare Dungeons, because that makes me love it a lot less. Because I just I like running the pit because that's what I can do mindlessly, right? Like I turn on a pot, whatever, right? Just grind and just doing stuff. Like I could, if I want to push, I could jump into like a 120. I think I've done like a 130 is the highest, or 127 I think is the highest I've done. So like if I'm trying to like push, right? It's kind of a slog, and the bosses have way too much health. I think it's kind of nuts, but it's kind of a way for me to test my character, push my character. And then if I want to just like blast and like just get materials really fast, I'll just run like 100s or 1-on-1s, and I can do them. So especially on Lightning Stork this season, obviously, bless up, Sorcerer's living good right now. So I'll take it. But so it's really fun, and so I don't always like running hordes just because I like kind of changing it up. I will never go into a Nightmare Dungeon right now. Why would I? There's no reason to, and I definitely don't want to. It's not content I want to engage with. And then flip-flopping that means that like my masterworking grind, now again, hopefully it's still facilitated by Infernal Hordes the way that it is now, where I could just ignore it and never have to go there, and that's what I would do. But if there's any point in time where I'm like, if they like bring it more in line so they're even or some shit, or where I even like have that thought of maybe I should go run Nightmare Dungeons, I'm gonna gouge my eyes out. I hate them.
That's how you really feel. I do think there's work there to be done on existing areas in the game rather than just keep adding stuff.
Yep.
Like the Nightmare Dungeons, like Strongholds as well. Why do we have to redo them just to access certain Legion events? There's no like
And
decent rewards
dungeons,
for
other
redoing
dungeons as
them.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if it was like the first time that you run it in this difficulty, you might get a Stygian stone at the end of it. Just make it worth my time.
Yeah.
At the moment, they're not, and they're like a wasted area of the game to me. I should want to go back to them because they've all got their own, little interesting storylines and quests, but I don't care enough to want to do it again every season.
Yep.
Which is fair.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of reasons to keep going, that would be leveling. That would be Paragon, and there's a lot of things shifting. First, we already talked about it. Leveling, we stop at level 60 now, which is going to be weird to have level 100 characters, and now, like, I've got a Hall of Fallen Heroes. They're level 100 forever. You can't take
That's
that
actually,
from
I
me.
hadn't thought about that. That's pretty funny. Yeah.
Those are permanent. So
That's good.
I just have to not die again because eventually they cycle out. That's a complaint for a different day. All right, so let's cover. Obviously, we alluded to it before, but glyphs can go up to level 100 now. After level 46, they become legendary, and they get that little expansion, so they get a little bit bigger. Realm partitions. Players can now earn up to 300 Paragon points.
That doesn't count the altars too, right? So it's 325.
Does
I'm
not count the
assuming that-
altars and does not count the progression bonus from the zones.
Okay, yeah.
Renown.
So
yeah.
probably even higher than 325.
Yeah, renown. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, you haven't had to do that in a while. It's not about it, but no, it's there. So up to 300, right? That's a lot. Let's complain about that in a second. Paragon is now also going to be shared between all characters. So the second you hit 60, you can start slotting in all those points, 200 points, yo, get after it. Instead of like the 20 I get to do when I hit, level 50. So all of them, maximum of 5 Paragon boards, and Nineball, you had talked about that a little bit earlier. And then every class
including
is getting a
your
new
starter.
Paragon board. Right.
It should be important that it's 5 Paragon boards, including your starter, so you only get to have 4.
Yeah. Which, again, like the meta has kind of made it so that like you want to have as many glyphs as you can. You're spreading yourself out. One of our larger complaints, I think, over the course of the show has been around how it doesn't feel like there's much choice in the Paragon system itself. And now I have more points to spend in less places.
Less choice.
We talked a little pre-show. This was not what I was expecting for Paragon. I was expecting it to be a little bit more streamlined. Like, maybe we had already saw the 60. So in my head, I was like, okay, level cap is 60. We get 40 Paragon points, 1 per level. And we're gonna narrow all these boards down. We're gonna cut the fat. We added a lot more fat. And again, we're gonna play it on Wednesday. We're gonna get a chance to see what that feels like. I'm really intrigued by how much I'm going to hate having to slot in 300 points. Am I going to hate it more? Probably by a magnitude of about 75. But maybe I don't. Maybe there's a way to just like quickly just zip, zip, zip. Like you're just mass deleting emails. I don't know. I don't.
Pick a direction and put them all there. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just fill out this board, please. Like if there was a checkbox at the top of the board,
Select all.
Select all. All right, there they go. Drop them in. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of both parts. Account-wide Paragon. And so many points. But here's where I invite you yet again to tell me I'm wrong.
I like the fact that they're just unlocked across the realm. So, and anything that encourages ults and being easier to make ults, I'm down with. That part I'm happy about. There being so many of them, I don't engage with Paragon much at all as it is. I will, once I hit the level cap and I'm into Paragon points, I'm like, bam, max roll. I just follow the path.
Tell me what to do.
I can't be bothered. Yeah, just tell me where to go, what direction. Because to me, I'm reading them and it's just meaningless information. And I don't see how this is going to change that for me as a player.
I mean, I kind of stopped caring about the Paragon boards like season 3 when it was just when it really just like afterwards it became just take as many glyphs as you possibly can, and it really doesn't matter. That's just the most power that you're going to get out of any of your individual points. So them going through and then making a limit on the boards, so that way you actually have to force to engage, with the system a little bit more, as opposed to what's the most efficient way that I can get 7 boards or 6 boards, for going through and equipping these glyphs. To me, makes it a little bit more interesting. Sure, you have more points, but it's more clicking, but it's more things that you can kind of like engage with. They didn't give examples, but they did say, each board has been tuned with the major progression updates in mind. So maybe we'll see rare and magic nodes are a little bit more interesting, or at least more impactful with what it is that you're going to go through and do. I do hope that we would get a system with the Paragon updates one day that like the rare nodes are more actual like changing of like your build and your mechanics, as opposed to just like a 16% damage to elites or 20% damage while fortified.
10% non-physical damage.
yeah. It would something. Yeah, just things that change it up, just a little bit. I don't even know or anything like off the top of my head, but things that you can engage with as opposed to just being flat bonuses, because right now everything kind of is just flat bonus besides the legendary nodes. So yeah.
Yeah, no, 9, I agree with you. I think, again, we all know how I feel about the Paragon system in general, but I agree with you. I think that, like, the system as it exists right now of just go get all the glyphs that you can is pretty shit. But as a sorcerer, like, all of my legendary nodes fucking suck. There's, like, 3, maybe 2, actually, that are useful. And they're usually not useful for half the builds. Like, Lightning really likes Static Surge a lot. There's exceptions, but so they have to, and I know they're going to revamp, right? So hopefully there's some significant work done there that makes them more interesting. But all this told me is I'm going to have a lot more dexterity as a sorcerer. Why the fuck do I care? Like, I got 100 extra points and I get 5 boards, so I get less glyphs, which means I'm getting more main stat, which more main stat means probably more dexterity and willpower, which doesn't. Yeah, it feels real stupid to me. But hey, again, they're revamping, they're reworking. I think the PTR is going to be really important for this part. This is probably the part that I'm paying attention to the most right now, because I think that this has the potential to really shift, like, especially like the meta, and like, I mean, with your glyphs leveling to 100 and how much they're going to grow in size, how much more is that? I don't know. They could do some really cool things. Really cool things with that. But it depends on what they do with it. I think that the system really needs to take a look, and hopefully they put some good work into it, because Paragon, getting more of them didn't feel better. I mean, at this point, like, if you think about it ostensibly, if you have 225 points right now, why not just say, okay, every 40 points pick a legendary glyph, right? So 40 points in Int, now I go get Static Surge, and then another 40 points in Int, and then I go get this other legendary glyph. It's the exact same system we have, and it's not as annoying to fucking deal with, right? But then it just becomes the Diablo 3 Paragon system, and I don't think we really want that either. So it's like, put all of it in the skill tree. Just put all of it in the skill tree.
I mean, it's one of those ones where it's like, like season 1, season 2, I had fun going through and trying to like make my own like Paragon builds. Sure. Not going to the guides and using the guides and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, I would go through and I would look at like a build guide or something and get an idea, and it's like maybe that is a little bit more efficient. I can go and change like the board placement, and it gives me a couple extra points that I can spend. for like an extra like 2% HP, node or something like that. Like little tiny things like that. I think like limiting the boards and giving you more points allows you to more freely go through and pick and choose those Paragon nodes. So it in an essence, it makes it harder to screw up your build. Obviously you can always just go through, follow somebody else's guide and have all the decisions made for you. But I am interested in seeing how it will go through and work out. Just because you'll be able to get more nodes. You'll be able to fill in more points, and so in essence, it's harder to make bad decisions because there's fewer decisions that you can make. In that respect. Mm-hmm. So. It at least has me interested enough that I'm willing to engage with it and try and figure out my own build as opposed to just copying somebody else's.
Yeah, right now when I hit 100, part of the benefit of that is not having to think about Paragon anymore.
Yeah,
because you're constantly getting points as you're leveling up, and it's just one more thing to think about when you're going back to town to trash and you're trying to be efficient. It's like, okay, you're telling your party, just wait 1 minute. I've got like 15 Paragon points that I've got to put in here. And now you're telling me I've got to do that for longer. I just don't want to think about it. So, yeah, we'll see how it looks. It's really hard to visualise how impactful that's going to be until we see the PTR.
Yeah. And then just one other thing, that we had mentioned earlier about it being shared across your realm. It will make me be more interested in leveling up alts during a season. Just since I only have to get to 60, and not 360. Of course, depends on what the leveling avenue from 1 to 60 is. Is 1 to 60 still 1 to 100? In what the game is now. That will potentially change it, but only having to farm out those Paragons once and lowering that leveling aspect might entice me to level some alts a little bit more.
Do you guys think it's going to feel worse, like hitting level 60 and then just gaining Paragon as opposed to leveling to 100 and gaining Paragon? Do you think? Because I thought about that from a psychological standpoint. I don't know that I'm gonna. I don't know that I'm gonna like feeling like that, right? Like I didn't like that feeling in Diablo 3. Hit 70 and then now it's just Paragon forever, and the difference between 800 and 1200 and whatever. I hope that it doesn't feel that way again. That's my worry with it.
It's just a nicer number.
I like it in the aspect that it breaks up the Paragon system in your actual like leveling system.
Sure.
Because prior to that, every level that you're gaining like skill points and amongst other things and unlocking new item tiers. And so then leveling up past 50 felt weird because like your progression changed fundamentally. And so actually having it as a difference between your level, your skill points, the base HP and stuff like that versus the Paragon levels, which is just Paragon points, makes the progression feel, to me at least, it makes the progression make more sense.
Gotcha.
I think, as you're talking about it, I think we need to get rid of both the dual system. Just have one skill tree. It would be better.
Every glyph and every legendary node as an additional branch on the skill tree would make the skill tree better and make Paragon less cancer. So that's my pitch. I've had it forever. That's always been my pitch.
You could and make those parts of the skills trees glyphs and you level them. I don't know. It feels weird to have that second progression. It's gonna feel weird to like roll an alt after like one of my characters dies and then to hit 60 and then just like automatically. Oh, let's pretend that the character that died had full Paragon automatically to the end, right? Yes, I'll still need gear, but all the other work has already been done. It just seems odd. I kind of did like okay, I've hit 80, 90, 100, and now the character, that part of the game is done. Now I'm just trying to find what I need.
Well, I think it also comes back, and this is partially a D2, D3 argument, and I hate to rehash this, so I'm not going to. But just like it's really like the difference between a 99 sorcerer in Diablo 2 and a 97 sorcerer is a huge fucking difference, right? Not from a power standpoint, but from like a commitment to the character standpoint, right? And I don't know how a 60 character with 300 Paragon points will feel versus a 100 character with 200 Paragon points, right? And I just like, that's why I was kind of curious, because I hadn't thought about that till we were talking about it. Yeah, hopefully it feels good still. We'll see.
Yeah. Again, it's all still needs to be tested. I feel like this podcast is going the exact way that the actual campfire did for me, where we're just like, I don't know, I don't know,
I don't know,
I don't
man.
know,
Yeah.
and then they're like, we know you're not a big fan of, Xanth, you don't like this Paragon system. We hear you. You're not a big fan of that new Druid skill we showed you. That's okay. Let me tell you something. We're bringing back Runewords, and they totally redeemed themselves. Because at that point, I was
drop the bomb.
I'm on cloud 9. I'm just like, okay, what? Like, oh yeah, and guess what? Some of these Runewords you can use other classes' skills. What? Oh, we're doing that. We're not like just like, oh, it increases your movement speed a little bit. No, like, oh, you can walk around and have earthquakes, and I'm on board. But my request is you also should allow us to use other classes, class uniques. Let's really get nuts with it. Also diversify the item pool. It might be more fun. But Runewords coming back, new fashion, little different, obviously. Having to have some conditions to get the other rune that you want to work. But I'm kind of excited to not just be mindlessly slotting in rubies, to maybe diversify things a little bit. Also, rubies suck now, so it doesn't matter because it's just strength. We don't have enough time to talk about gems. Sorry, guys. If you can Google that, look up what do gems look like in Diablo 4 now. They're not great. But
Who cares about gems? It's fine.
There's somehow even worse. After I was,
at least they gave me health. They used to give me health. I needed that health. Yeah. Okay, I really did actually as a sorc. That health was nice.
I think it was like 2 episodes ago or maybe more, I'd gotten on my soapbox and was talking about how like modern ARPGs need better gem systems than just plus stats, and now they're reverting like health to just like stats, and it's just gems are boring and bad. Having said that, I don't like the Runewords.
Me either.
Oh my god, what?
What?
So one of the absolute best things that Diablo 3 had ever done was went through and said class skills are class skills and other classes can't use them. Going through and they focus. So one of the biggest problems with Runewords in Diablo 2 was having access to other classes' skills, i.e. mostly Enigma, teleport. But like then being able to go through and it's like, well, why have a paladin? Because I can just have a merc run around with any aura that I wanted.
Yep.
And it made it so that way classes felt less like unique, that they brought less to the table, especially in group-based experiences, which we're going to be having is at the forefront of this expansion, and going through and making it so that way the runes are just taking the worst aspect of Runewords from Diablo 2, for me, was a huge, like, instant turnoff.
Yep.
Instant turnoff. One of my other bigger problems with modern ARPGs is having to do 50 million things for a 3-second buff. That you have to it's all about maximizing uptime of that 3-second buff. And guess what the hell like the non-class skill runes are and stuff like that. It is more of the same. Spamming cooldowns, moving this, doing that, XYZ to get this little 3-second buff. And it's just like everything about the Runewords that they showed off completely turned me off. I did not care. I don't like the implementation of having to just build up a whole new resource system or keep track of how many times I've used a cooldown skill or how much essence that I've gone through and used, so that way I activate this last essence use to get this particular buff for the right window of time to use it. or I'm just walking around with a paladin aura or war cry or something like that, because it's going to be the default best thing that I can do, because it's a great class skill that I can then now use.
Words. I saw you furiously. It looked like you were writing stuff down.
I mean, preach, brother, preach, because I'm 100% with 9 on this one. I think that everyone that cared about Runewords was already lost on Diablo 4. Anyone that was like, I want Runewords in Diablo 4, they already stopped playing. They're done. So this was okay. Well, you were the exception to the rules, Amp. I don't think anybody saw these Runewords and were like, yeah, Enigma's back. No one said that. Anyone that said, yeah, Enigma's back, probably didn't actually play Diablo 2, because it really fucked the game up. Like, it homogenized everything, like what 9 said, right? The fact that you can get my teleport now, and not my actual teleport, by the way, my evade teleport, which is actual shit. Like, it's not that good. It's really not, because the cooldown's a lot longer than your normal evade is. I'm sure there'll be use cases for it and whatever, it'll be fine. But they took, like, runes from Diablo 2 to do the namesake of we're doing Runewords. They threw Jaw in there. They threw Vex in there. They made them do something completely different from what they actually fucking did. Completely built Runewords into legendary. So you have a legendary item and you put 2 sockets, so you put 2 things. It's not a Runeword. You're just adding... That's just new gems. They're just new gems. They're just new gems. They named them Runewords for the PR of having Runewords back in Diablo 4. That's it. And that's stupid. I completely agree with 9. I completely agree. I also think, and I wrote this down. If I'm
wrong, you have a rune tattoo, do you not?
I do. Yeah, I have Enigma tattooed on me. Yeah.
And if I'm incorrect, again, correct me. The runes from D2 do not line up to the D4 runes, at least from what we've seen.
No, they don't.
So that's a good thing for you, because it holds on, but it's also like it should be like, if you're going to have the same
it
word,
just felt
Jaw should be Jaw.
Yeah. It felt cheap. It just feels cheap to me. It felt like
I got so much jip when I published my article on just what the campfire coverage was, because I put the Runewords back in the headline. And then it was just DM after DM. They are not Runewords. They are not as they were in D2. Well, they're calling them Runewords. I'm going to call them Runewords. Right, they're just in a different fashion. Yeah. I'm going to go with what they're calling them. It's fine. But I think that I'm really positive about them. I think they're a really good way to increase some build diversity in the game. And they have said that the class skill, if you are using it from another class, it won't be as good as it would be if that class had it. So it will still feel like your own if you're a rogue or a sorcerer or whatever. Well, as long as I don't have to think about them, like you said, I don't want to have to think that, okay, I need to press my potion this many times, or evade this many times to activate this. But, I don't want to have to think about activating. I want it to do it in the background.
If they want us to track UIs or like buffs, then give us the ability to customize our UI to track buffs. Like they were talking in the campfire chat about how, it's so cool that you can follow this. How in the hell are you playing Diablo 4 looking at that buff? Right? How are you doing that?
Yeah. No one's doing that at a high level. I can't even see all of my buffs now. Like it's like one of those ones where it's like
it's just back to the end.
I have to count corpses in my head, like how many I've used, and when you're frantically like clicking and running away from like a giant like mass of exploding mobs like in the pit or something like that, like I don't know if that skill actually went off or not. Like am I at 3 or I'm at 4? I don't know. And like you have the space for your buffs, and the freaking flesh eater is like over here. It's like way off the bar. Never seeing that again. So.
Well, and then, like, the other part of it, too, like, I mean, conjuration masteries, right? Trying to track how many conjurations I have out in the world while I'm playing a Swerk right now. Like, you just kind of glance as much as you can. But, like, okay, here's what would make me be happier about this change. Let me download add-ons. Give me the ability to download add-ons and mod my UI the way I can in World of Warcraft, because that's what makes World of Warcraft playable. The ability to create my own UI so I can track the buffs that are necessary to my character. If I can't track these buffs, I don't give a shit. There's already too much happening on the screen. It's too frenetic. No one is like looking at that UI at a high level when you're pushing top end content. And you do it at the target dummy. Really, that's where you do it. You do it there so that you can go out and go, okay, now I can try it and see how it goes. But the UI isn't good enough to track those things. But I do think that there were some cool ideas in the runes. I just think it was a cheap ploy. That said, like there were some interesting ideas and some mechanics, and we'll see how it plays out. This was not like, oh my god, Runewords, this is a huge win. It was more like, why? Why are we doing this?
I will say the slide that came up all about how offering and overflow and all of that worked was the slide that pushed me over the edge to go and get a glass of wine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because at this point I was like, there is a lot of systems to think about now.
There's 2 more tracking things now too, right? You got to track your offering versus your. Like,
they've gone from saying they want to make the game easier and more approachable for the casual audience, and then they're introducing this new system with its own new currency of sorts. And it's just, I'm sat there thinking, okay, how do I explain this game to a newcomer now? And all of the things that you have to think about when you're gearing your character, it's a lot. Yeah. And at that point, I thought, God, I do wish a little bit that they had let the expansion breathe with the new campaign and the new class, and then maybe introduced all this stuff a season later. I could be wrong. It might be a case of they've got a lot of new players coming back that have not played seasons at all and have just played the story, and they think this is a good time to shake the game up and then learn the game from new again, rather than doing it later. That might be why they're doing it. I don't know. But for me, who has played all the seasons, I wish there was a bit less for us to concentrate on when it launches in October. At the moment, there's a lot going on, and it's really overwhelming.
Well, and I think that, just because I keep coming back to this, I think that like Diablo 4, the point of Mythic Uniques was to feel like when you were playing D2 and you got that jaw drop, right? That was the point. Was oh my god, this dropped. But it was they completely botched it in how they did it. It just didn't feel that way. And now it doesn't feel that way either, because you just grind until you get it. It becomes just a point on a timeline. You just keep doing it until you get it, then you get it. I mean, I've had a Shaco every season. It just takes time. You just got to spend the time to do it. Yeah. Whereas, like, I could grind whole seasons of Diablo 2, whole ladder seasons of Diablo 2, and never find a Zod rune, never find a Jaw, never find a Burr, right? Mind you, I had some good luck, so hopefully, fingers crossed, we're doing good in this ladder right now. But I just think that, like, here's what I imagine. I'm level 60. I have 325 Paragon points. I have every item I want. But my build requires this Vex rune. And I don't have it yet. And how is that going to feel until I get it? And then are they going to create another fucking boss ladder so I can farm them specifically to fix the problem? It just feels real tacked on to me. And Jen, your article spoke to my soul because I felt exactly the same way. There's so much great in this expansion, so much great stuff coming in this expansion, but all this mechanical changes just clutters that up and just makes me stressed about the expansion. I want to focus on the story. I was very excited
for the expansion, and now I'm thinking...
Spiritborn? Yeah. The Spiritborn and the story and going to the Karast and like, all this was so cool. And now I'm like, why are we getting 300... But hey, there's 8 difficulties now, and they make more sense.
And a seasonal mechanic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We don't know about it yet.
We don't even know about that yet.
We just know it exists.
Look, I think we all know that, like, the Diablo team has done a very good job at listening to community feedback. There's a PTR, that's what it's for, right? I think we'd be doing ourselves a disservice if we were just like all thumbs up on everything, right? We all have some very mixed opinions. I just think that, like, this PTR is important for everyone. So if you're out there listening, please play the shit out of it, break the game, and go yell at somebody so we can, respectfully, so that we can get, things looking good. But yeah, the team's done a good job. Just a lot of these changes have me scratching my head right now, big time.
Yeah, I will say one good thing about Runewords.
Okay.
And that is the original Runewords was a crafting system.
Yeah.
It wasn't a gym system that it is now. It was a crafting system, and there'll be specific crafting recipes in order to make Mythic Uniques using just runes. In one Resplendent Spark, you still will be able to craft any mythic that you want with the 4, but there will also be. They said that there's going to be crafting recipes for specific mythics using runes.
Gotcha.
You watch next. It'll be the cubes coming back.
Yep. Oh, it's just that's
Pulling it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe
So
that's
I
the
at least
season
like
mechanic.
yeah, I at least like that aspect of it because that is more in line with what the original Runewords were. Because
What the intent
original
was, yeah.
Runewords, it was a crafting system. Is
Yeah.
what it was. I put these three things together, and it
goes
gives me this unique item. You know, that's what it was. Yeah, because even just like from like a flavor aspect, you know, just like there are times that you would just you wouldn't even use rune words, you just use runes because it's like plus 25% magic find. Let me sock in a whole bunch of these, you know, into my weapon, or throw them into my Alibaba or something like that. You know, just there were things that the runes stood on their own, you know, that you could, just make sure that you could never be frozen or something along those lines. You know, that just throwing it into gear, to have that one rune, but now they don't have that aspect or that appeal.
The legendary power or aspect on a rune, which is really just like a legendary gem, and we even socket them to. And it's all confusing.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I would have been fine if they just brought back runes without rune words. You know, just to replace gems with other more interesting passive bonuses.
Yep, I agree.
Heard all of your criticism and critiques.
Dan's excited.
He's excited because he plays a druid and he actually gets useful class skills now.
He gets to teleport now.
Guys, it's not the teleport. I'm gonna get, rallying cry whenever I want. We don't need barbarians. We could delete the class. Mission accomplished.
Jesus.
Mission accomplished. Everybody gets a barbarian skill. You don't need them anymore. You just cut them out of the game. And
CTA is back.
Then class balance will follow, and everybody's going to be happy. In all seriousness, barbs can get screwed. But in true seriousness, I am genuinely curious. I think you bring up some valid concerns. The regular inert part of a rune not being there is disappointing. That, like, I need two of them. I can't just pop in one somewhere and it's still doing something. Maybe that's feedback that they get of like, hey, I keep getting this one. It would be cool if I could just drop it in and it would still give me, some main stat. Even that would be better than nothing, like requiring two. But we will see. We'll see what that feedback is. And you did allude to it. We are going to be testing this rather quickly. And I think we've dwelled a little more negative today, which is fine. Like, that's criticism, right? It can be definitely interpreted as more negativity. But I think back to the Infernal Hordes on PTR. I didn't really care for them, right?
Wasn't great.
No.
Yep. But it's really good now.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yep.
I didn't expect when this season started to spend much time there, and the changes that they were able to make in a quick time period. I could see, you guys have already hit on it. Like, Runewords, maybe they get the feedback that they want to shelve them, and they're like, hey, maybe this won't be ready. I doubt that. I sincerely doubt they put that out there and they're like, oh, we're gonna take that back. They could. I think this team has already shown they're willing to make hard decisions when they postponed a season or extended a season by a month, right? So we'll see. But get out, test your butts off. I start school this week, so testing's already gonna be harder. I have to go to work, guys.
The worst.
Some of us do that all the time, so
yeah, but not me. So that's why it's hard. Okay?
Fair.
This is a me problem.
Actually, I think it's more of an us problem.
Yeah, can't get paid to play Diablo yet. It's okay. The second it becomes work, it's not going to be fun. So we can't do this for our jobs. Okay. We're getting late. And in Jen's case, early. Jen, since you are our guest, where can people find you?
So I am Genbox360 over on Twitter /X, whatever you want to call it, and I write over at Windows Central. And you say working on Diablo makes it less fun. I am internally screaming about how many guides I've got to rewrite after this PTR. But I am still having fun with it.
I'm excited to see how many forum posts and Reddit posts are bitching about stash space when they start collecting runes. I'm
I think
ready
there's
for
going to be
it.
a special rune stash tab too.
The special rune
even
pockets for
better.
them, yeah.
Great. So why even have Never mind. Anyway, okay.
Don't think about it.
And they're tradable.
So you got that?
Yay.
Yeah, it'll be great. Well, again, thank you, Jen, for getting up early and hanging out with us. It's always good to see you. It's been a while, and thanks for keeping us updated on all the cool things over on Windows Central. Your coverage is always great. In the meantime, and thanks to you guys too. I see you far too often. You didn't get up extra early. It's okay. But let's close it out as we always do with Moo.
Moo?
Sever got
Moo.
buffed.